thanks to the folks of Mississippi. Y'all have done a fabulous job of hosting this, and our thanks go out to you. Thanks also for allowing me to serve on this august panel. It has allowed me to keep my wife in the room so that she's not down at the slot machines today. You know, one of the things that I noticed, and I pick up on little things, I enjoy doing that, is the superb linguistics that we've heard today as various presenters have presented. But I wanted to give you an idea of the reverse of that. And this was a former colleague of now that we now demoted to the Senate. My Senate friends, I apologize, but it is a demotion. But he and I were on a panel together. This has been a year or two ago, and he says, I'm going to give you a face look at what goes on in the Senate. Well, I'm trying to figure out what a face look is, but I've probably got a dozen or more of his faux pas. I wanted to share a couple with you. We've got to make sure that this bill passes constitutional mustard. What goes around comes around is worth two in the bush. So that's the face look of what goes on, I think, in almost every legislative body in the United States in some way, shape, or form. If we look at South Carolina, we truly may have the most diverse energy portfolio, if you will, of any state in the United States. We've got 3 investor-owned utilities. It was 4 until Duke and Progress merged. We've got 20 separate electric cooperatives, 21 municipal electric distributors, and 10 of those also own a part of a nuclear generation station. In South Carolina, the only people who are covered by the Public Service Commission are those 3 IOUs. More than 50% of the citizens of our state are not covered by the Public Service Commission. They're covered by different entities, the boards of directors or the municipal council or various and sundry things, but they're not covered by what we would know as a PSC. Historically, we find, and we all know this, that generation is made up of nuclear, coal, and natural gas. That's changing a little bit. But again, I go to the uniqueness of South Carolina. Over 50% of our generation is nuclear. When we get the 2 plants that are presently under construction and will come online in 2018 and 2019, we will have 60-some-odd% will be non-emitting generation in our state. But we're not fortunate like Mississippi and Alabama and Arkansas and some of these states who have abundant natural resources. We don't have them. But what we've done is manifested the best of what we've got and put it to work. And maybe that's the intelligence level that we've had to use to get these. I've got a 3 nuclear reactor unit in my district. So the people in my district glow in the dark. We understand that, but it's expected. The fish have strange appearances. We understand that. But now we're looking at solar. And most of the utilities have already announced that they're going to build solar arrays. Let me tell you a little story. elderly lady driving down the highway. Blue light comes on behind her. She pulls over. The officer walks up to the window of the car and said, "Ma'am, let me see your driver's license and registration." Well, she hands him her driver's license and concealed weapons permit. And he said, "Well, ma'am, do you have any weapons in the car?" "Yes, sir. I got a .45 automatic in glove compartment. Left hand on the door frame, 2 fingers, open it. Yep, I see your gun. Do you have any other weapons in the car?" "Yes, sir. I got a .357 Magnum in the console." Same process. Finally, he says, "Ma'am, do you have any other weapons in your car?" "Yes, sir. I got a .380 automatic in my purse." He said, "Ma'am, what are you afraid of?" She said, "Not a damn thing." So, I say that as kind of a lead-in to where we are on solar. I think solar is coming. I think we have to be a little afraid of how it's being done. And we're looking at it. I had 2 bills in committee this year that are still in committee and will be this time next year. I can assure you of that. They are simply not coming out. But I think that we should all be a little bit leery of some of these schemes because they're out there. But it should not cause us to be paralyzed with fear. That would be totally wrong. It is something that we should be able to embrace, but we should be able to embrace it intelligently. And it's like the lady with the guns. If we're forearmed with the proper knowledge, then we got nothing to fear. And so that's why I use that little story. Several years ago, and I've talked with y'all about this before, we changed our PSC, made them quasi-judicial. They are elected by our legislature. They serve a 4-year term and stand for re-election. And we are tough on them. I will tell you that I've been part of the screening process for them for a number of years. We also created the Office of Regulatory Staff, and that office has 3 missions, one of which is the protection of the public interest. They are party to every case going before the PSC, but the third one is to protect the viability of the electric utilities because they're so critical to what we do. But also in that, we created the Public Utility Review Committee, on which I'm very fortunate to serve, and now I'm vice chairman. But our committee is truly unique. We've got 6 legislators, 3 senators, 3 House members, but then 4 non-legislators. And it is a very deliberative body. We enjoy each other's company, but we work like dogs to get everything done that we want to do. But in that committee, we created an Energy Advisory Commission. And that Energy Advisory Committee is made up of the Energy Office of South Carolina, the Office of Regulatory Staff, energy users groups, environmentalists, the regulated community, everybody we could even think of. I know Chuck goes to those meetings, and I appreciate that. And they're to issue a report to us in the next month or so that will help us to decide where we go from here. And they will give us a different take on that, if you would like that term, take. But I don't know what it'll be. We haven't seen a report. We haven't seen a draft. But it's coming. One thing I can tell you about South Carolina, I don't anticipate that we will ever have a renewable portfolio standard. And it's something that I believe is the right way to do. I think we will adopt something as far as loose goals, but it will not be standards like the feds have done and said you must meet this criteria by this date. We just don't do things that way. There's a little thing called Fort Sumter in South Carolina. And the last time the feds tried to really tell us what to do, we had a little discussion about that for several years. And the first shot was fired at Fort Sumter. We don't forget that. There are still bills drafted in members' desk drawers where they are articles of secession. We may introduce one of those pretty soon. One thing I will tell you, and I think it's pretty neat, you talked about carbon fiber. Well, we've got a lot of it going in Charleston because we've got a new Boeing facility. They built the first part of it for $1 billion. They just started on the second one for another $1.2 billion. They first said they were going to have 6,000 jobs. They already hired over 8,000, and we're very proud of that. But there's something else in Charleston that very few people around the country really know about, and that is that we've built the largest wind turbine testing facility in the world. It'll be second to none when it's completed, and it's nearing completion right now, and it's adjacent to the harbor. So that vessels coming in can offload these turbine engines and have them tested right there. So that's a part of what's going on in the energy arena. But one other thing that we did do, and this is in conjunction with what several of you have talked about, and that's transportation. Charleston is a very busy port, and I live in the upstate. The upstate, or the Piedmont as we call it, is the largest user of the port in Charleston. Big part of it is BMW and Michelin. But that was trucked to Charleston. And we're about to open an inland port adjacent to the Greenville-Spartanburg Airport with a train running only between there and the Port of Charleston. They can load a car on it in the morning, and the next morning it'll be sitting in the port in Charleston, ready to offload. So it's going to take a lot of trucks off the road, make for a lot more efficient operation. Thank you all very much, and please always remember, don't be afraid of anything.